Just do the numbers. Paige, that's all we need from you. My mother-in-law did not even look up from her phone when she said it. She was scrolling. Thumb, moving in slow, bored arcs. Like I was a pop-up ad that refused to close. Sunlight poured through the tall windows of their Scottsdale dining room and lit up a vase of white orchids that probably cost more than my monthly grocery bill. The annual review is in 2 weeks, she added. My son handles strategy. You handle spreadsheets. Simple. My husband, Nolan, sat at the far end of the table and said nothing. He was excellent at saying nothing when his mother was in the room. 33 years of practice. He pushed food around his plate and stared through the wall like a man waiting for a storm to pass. I nodded. Because that is what they trained me to do. I picked up my fork and said, "Of course." Then I went home and opened my laptop. Because I am not a hobby. I am a CPA. If you have ever been talked down to while you were the only one doing real work, tell me, would you have stayed quiet? Comment *** yes or no ***. Confirms to view a seat 0, index equal 0. To understand what I found, you have to understand what Harrowe Contracting claimed to be. On paper, it was a mid-size construction company outside Phoenix, founded by my late father-in-law, now run by my husband and his mother, Regina. 40 employees. Annual revenue around 7 million. Boring and respectable. The kind of company that sponsors little league teams and puts a logo with a house silhouette on everything. I joined as internal controller 16 months ago. Before me, they used an outside bookkeeper who came in quarterly, stamped things clean, and left. Regina brought me in-house because, as she told Nolan, it's cheaper than outsiders. At least it stays in the family. Not because she believed I was skilled, because she believed I was convenient. A credential with legs. A wife who happened to have a CPA license. I had a master's in accounting. I had worked 4 years at a Big Four firm. I had caught vendor fraud and material misstatements before. The kind people swear is just a clerical issue, right up until they see the bank statements. And Harrow's books looked touched. At first I told myself it was sloppy record-keeping. Old habits. Poor controls. I gave them the benefit of the doubt for 1 month. By month 3, I had a private folder on my personal drive labeled MISC. That way it looked like nothing. By month 5, the folder had 27 items. By month 9, it had a name. I called it the parallel account. Here is what I found. Slowly. Like a puzzle someone kept trying to hide. Harrowe had a primary operating account at First Western Bank. Everything there tied cleanly to the general ledger. Payroll. Materials. Legitimate subs. Normal. But there was a second business account at a different bank. Desert Sun Financial. That account processed payments to one specific vendor, R&T Project Solutions. R&T appeared in our records as a subcontractor. Drywall. Framing support. Labor coordination. Their invoices were formatted correctly. They had a tax ID. They had an address in Mesa. The address was a UPS store. I drove there one Saturday, parked in a strip mall lot, ate a granola bar in my car, and stared at a row of rented mailboxes. Because over the last 24 months, $0,000 had been paid to a subcontractor that lived inside a mailbox. None of our site supervisors had ever heard of R&T. I asked carefully, casually, the way you ask questions in family companies where truth is treated like an insult. I told Marcus, the senior supervisor, that I was updating vendor contacts and needed to confirm the field coordinator for a few subs. I read 8 names. R&T was third. He frowned, looked up, and shook his head. Never seen them on any of my sites, he said. You sure they're real? I smiled. Must be a legacy record. Thanks. Then I went back to my office and added item 28 to the folder. The reason I did not confront anyone right away was simple. I needed the meeting. Regina scheduled the annual financial review 2 weeks out, and she did something she had never done before. She invited outside investors. 2 partners from Pinnacle Capital Partners. They were considering a partnership that would value Harrowe at $11.5 million and inject $2.8 million in growth capital. Regina was proud. She mentioned it at dinner, at brunch, in a group text, and in a voicemail she left Nolan that he played on speaker while I was in the room, because he forgot I existed. This is the most important meeting in this company's history, she said. Make sure Paige keeps the financials clean. That's all she has to do. Clean. That word told me everything. She did not want accurate. She wanted presentable. She did not know the numbers I prepared were not the numbers she expected. I want to be precise about what I did in those 2 weeks. Because it matters. I did not act out of rage, even though I had enough of it. I acted methodically. I pulled every Desert Sun financial statement back to the account opening date. I reconciled every R&T invoice against project logs. I mapped each payment to the general ledger entry that hit it. I noticed the amounts were consistently just under $25,000, which happened to be the threshold that triggers extra documentation under Harrowe's internal policy. Someone knew the threshold. Someone stayed under it on purpose. Then I pulled the Desert Sun account signature card. It required 2 signatures. Nolan was one signer. Regina was the other. I sat with that for a long time. I could tell you I confronted Nolan and begged him to do the right thing. I could tell you I gave him a chance to choose me over his mother. But I knew the shape of that conversation before it happened. Deny. Minimize. Blame the bookkeeping. Then pivot to my tone. Then apologize to Regina for my attitude. So, I did not have the conversation. I let the clock run. The night before the review, I worked until 2:10 a.m. I printed nothing. I saved everything to an encrypted drive that fit in my jacket pocket. I slept better than I had in a year. The conference room was built to impress. A glass table. Framed photos of completed projects. A new wall-mounted screen Regina installed just for this meeting. The whole room said, "Trust us." Pinnacle arrived at 9 on the dot. 2 men in their 40s. One in gray. One in navy. Carrying that calm confidence people have when they know everyone wants their money. Regina greeted them in a cream blazer and pearls. Nolan stood beside her in a suit I had ironed the night before. Because some habits are hard to break. No one introduced me. I set up at the AV station near the screen. This was my assigned role. Equipment management. The meeting started with coffee and small talk. Nolan delivered his practiced summary of the company. He sounded authoritative the way a man sounds authoritative when nobody checks his math. 20 minutes in, Regina turned to me. "Paige, bring up the financials." I opened my laptop. "Before I do," I said, "I want to make sure we are all looking at the same numbers." Regina's eyes tightened slightly. 2 millimeters. A warning. "That's what we're here for," she said. Voice, sweet. Patience, fake. I connected to the display. "I've been the controller here 16 months," I said. "My job is to ensure our financial statements reflect the company's actual transactions. Full picture. Nothing missing." Nolan looked at me for the first time that morning. I clicked to the first slide. Standard revenue summary. $4 million annual revenue. Margin by segment. Project pipeline. Everything they expected. The Pinnacle partners leaned in. "Margins look healthy," the man in gray said. They do. I agreed. But margin tells you what you kept. Today I want to show you what left. I clicked to the next slide. Vendor payment analysis. Subcontractor costs by vendor over 2 years. Legitimate subs listed. Normal distribution. Then one bar at the end. R&T Project Solutions. Subcontractor. $0 across 24 months. This vendor appears in our records as providing labor coordination. I said, I want to walk you through their work. Next slide. A table. Invoice dates. Amounts. Project codes. And site verification. The site verification column said the same thing on every line. No record. I contacted all project managers who would have overseen the jobs these invoices reference. I said, none of them have documentation that R&T performed services. No timesheets. No access logs. No signed delivery receipts. No communications. The man in gray stopped writing. I clicked again. This is the vendor registration. I said, R&T was registered 2 months before their first invoice. Their registered address is a mailbox rental service in Mesa. I clicked. A photo filled the screen. The UPS store entrance. Suite number visible. Flat afternoon light. Regina said my name quietly. Paige. It was a last chance to stop. I'm not finished, I said, calm, and kept going. Next slide. Desert Sun Financial Account opening documents. 2 signers highlighted. Regina Harlow. Nolan Harlow. The room went silent. The heavy kind. The man in navy spoke. Are these the only accounts associated with the business? No, I said. But this is the only account that processes payments to a vendor with no verifiable service delivery. How much total? Gray Suit asked. $0. I said. Coded as subcontractor labor. Consistently under 25. $0 per invoice. Which suggests familiarity with the internal threshold. Nolan finally spoke. Voice careful. There may be a record-keeping issue. Older files get messy. The oldest payment is from January 2023. I said, I've requested every project file from that period. The gaps are not record-keeping. The pattern is intentional. Regina stood up. I think we should take a short break. I'd prefer to keep going. The man in gray said. He was not looking at Regina. He was looking at the screen. Mrs. Harlow, do you have an explanation? Regina sat back down slowly. R&T was a consulting arrangement, not always documented the way it should have been. There's nothing to provide. I said, because I already sent the full reconciliation to your due diligence team this morning. Bank statements, vendor registration, project logs, site verification notes, transaction by transaction mapping. The man in gray checked his phone. Then he looked at his partner. A 2-second conversation happened without words. We need to pause this process, he said, standing. This is material. Regina leaned forward. Voice sharp now. This is being misrepresented. It's a family matter. $416,000 is not a family matter. The man in navy said, buttoning his jacket. It's a disclosure failure. We'll be in touch with your attorney. They left. The door closed with the quiet finality of something ending. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Regina turned toward me. Eyes cold. We gave you everything, she said. I thought about being talked over for 16 months. About being used as cheap labor. About being told to just do numbers like my career was a party trick. You gave me a desk, I said. I built the rest. Nolan finally looked up. His face was not anger. It was grief. The face of a man watching the story he told himself collapse. "Paige," he said softly. "You knew." "I knew enough," I replied. "And you signed for that account." Regina's lips tightened. "You did this to humiliate us." "No," I said. "You did this because you assumed nobody would check." Before I tell you what I did next, if you were in my position, would you report this formally? Or offer one controlled exit first? Comment ***1 or 2 ***. I closed my laptop, unplugged the HDMI cable, coiled it neatly. Because I am disciplined even when I am done being polite. "My attorney has been ready for 2 days," I said. "A civil claim will be filed this afternoon. The CPA board complaint goes in tomorrow. And the investors already have the documentation." Regina stared at me like she wanted to erase me with her eyes. Nolan's voice cracked. "Is there any way to fix this?" "There is a way to stop making it worse," I said. "Start telling the truth. For once." I walked out into the Arizona morning. The heat hit me instantly. Complete and honest. Unlike the people inside that conference room. I left Harrowe 8 months later. I opened my own practice. Forensic accounting for small and mid-sized companies. Especially family businesses. Because I know exactly where the lies hide. I know which questions people avoid because asking feels like betrayal. Numbers do not decide to be wrong. Someone decides for them. And I am done pretending that is not true. If you want more stories where just do the numbers turns into receipts on a screen, hit ***subscribe ***.